And the damage that that drunk driver did to her car, to her house, was so extensive that the city red tagged her home. And because they red tagged the home, she couldn't live there anymore. So she had to move at a moment's notice. And because she had to move, that means and you know, many of you who rent, you know that oftentimes landlords want first and last month's rent, a deposit. Some want a key deposit. They want an application fee. And I'm not, if any of you are landlords, I'm not kicking you. I'm not condemning you for charging those fees. There's nothing wrong with it. But I'm just saying, oftentimes people can't afford those fees. And this lady worked in a hospital as an LVN nurse, so she didn't make a whole lot of money. And she couldn't afford all these fees. So she was in a dilemma. What am I going to do? I'm a single mother. I got to move. What am I going to do? Anyway, she called me and told me that one day she came to work, and that same lady who used to bother her and send her home crying every day said, come here. And they went into one of the hospital rooms, and she said this lady handed her a white envelope full of money. And the lady said, when I heard about your situation, I went around the hospital and raised money to help you move. This is the same woman who used to send her home crying, raise money to help her move. Won't God make your enemies be your footstool? If we just wait on the Lord. Don't take the situation, don't take matters into your own hand. Wait on the Lord. But God just wanted me to encourage you this morning to wait on God. Let Him do it. I have one of my sisters, I'm going to say this in a moment. Leave it alone because I know we got a lot to do today. But one of my sisters was married to a man from a foreign country. And just to make long story short, he married her so he can get his green card. He used her. And he really fooled her because normally when people use you for that reason, they only stay married to you long enough to get what they want. I think the law requires you to be married for 2 years or 3 years. So he stayed with her for several years, so she thought that he was really sincere, that he really did love her. But one day out of the blue, he came to her and asked for a divorce. He said, I want to marry a woman from my own country. Just dropped her like a flat pancake. And she was staying in a home at the time, and when he left, she could no longer afford the home. The job that she was working wasn't paying her enough to pay the rent and the light bill and buy food and everything. But she didn't want to let go of the home because it had so much sentimental value to her. And ironically, around this same time, she lost her job. She was working at Church's Chicken for 19 years. Since she was age 19 years old. 19 years, and they just fired her on the spot like that. So can you imagine all of these things piling up on her at one time? You lose your marriage, you lose your job, you're about to lose your home. It's like the world was caving in on her. And I mean, her lights got cut off because she couldn't afford to pay the rent and the light bill. There were many nights she slept in that dark house, because see, the weather is not hot out there like it is here. The average weather in Northern California is about 65 degrees, so it gets cold at night. And she was sleeping in that cold, dark house by herself for months at a time. And sometimes she barely had food to eat. And I wanted to tell her to leave that house, but I knew that she probably wouldn't listen to me. But it was going to take God to speak to her. So all I could really do was pray for her and try to give her any help that I could. But anyway, my mother raised us all in church, so she knows the Lord. She made a decision to start going back to church. And to start paying her tithes and start trusting God. And do you know God started to turn her situation around? God blessed her. She wanted to go back to Church's Chicken. And I knew she shouldn't. I knew that season in her life was really over, but at the same time I could understand that That was the only job she knew. It's hard to give up something that you have been a part of that long. So she really had to take a step back before she could go forward. So the Lord, sometimes God will give us the desires of our heart, even though it may not be the best thing for us. God gave her another job at Church's Chicken because that's what she wanted so bad. But it didn't work out. So she let that go, and God blessed her with another job. So the job that she had it didn't pay her enough to still be able to pay all her bills. So she still couldn't afford the home. So God sent her landlord to her, and her landlord told her, I want you to move because I want my house back so I can remodel it and rent it to somebody else. But her landlord said, I own some apartments, and I'll be willing to give you an apartment to let you rent my apartment elsewhere. And the apartment was cheaper than the home. Wow. See, sometimes, in order to get blessed, we got to let go. Yes. You know, a lot of these people whose homes are in foreclosure, they need to let go. All the time, it don't pay to try to hold on to things. Sometimes your blessings come through letting go. But anyway, when she moved out of that home and into that apartment, God turned everything around. Sometimes when I go to her apartment now and I see how well she's doing, tears come to my eyes. Because it's hard to believe that this was the same woman who was sleeping in that dark, cold house and barely had anything to eat. Now she's doing well. She is doing very well. And I said all these things to show you that God can turn your situation around. I don't know what situation you're facing. I don't know how impossible it might seem. I don't know how long it's been there. But God can do the impossible.